Hi, I'm Daniel with Z-Man Fishing Products, and we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this month. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are, where we came from, what we do, about our people, and just about our story to help celebrate our 30th anniversary. Now, Z-Man started with pretty humble beginnings. We were founded by a man named Jerry Zucker. He was the original Z-Man. That's why our company's name Z-Man is after Mr. Zucker. We were founded on October 20th of 1995, and at the time we only had around 5 or 6 employees, and all we did was manufacture silicone skirts that were used on spinnerbaits and bass jigs by other companies. Some of our earliest customers were Strike King and War Eagle, and a lot of smaller manufacturers, and that was 100% of what we did for the first few years of Z-Man's existence. It was a small operation, and we just made and supplied silicone skirts to other lure companies. Now, Mr. Zucker was a very smart man. He was a smart businessman, and he was also a scientist, an inventor, an expert on chemicals and manufacturing processes. And in the early 2000s, he got the idea to use a brand new material called thermoplastic elastomer, or TPE, to make fishing lures. Now, until then, fishing lures had only been made from plastisol, or PVC. And as you know, that material is very brittle, it tears easily, and it's also not very healthy for the environment. Mr. Zucker immediately recognized the advantages of TPE. It's an extremely tough material, it'll hold up longer, result in less plastic waste in the water, and it's 100% non-toxic. So what Mr. Zucker did is he put 2 or 3 people in a lab for 3 or 4 years to formulate a TPE material that worked for fishing lures. It was soft enough, it was easy to rig, it was easy to use, came in all the right colors. And on a date that was very important to Z-Man's history, 5/5/05, May 5th, 2005, we ran the first batch of what we came to call our ElasTech material. Now, at the time, our only intention was to make ElasTech plastics for other companies. We never intended to sell anything under the Z-Man brand. And for the next few years, that's what we did. We sold our ElasTech plastics to 3 other companies in the fishing industry, but after a couple of years, we realized that the products weren't being marketed enough, that they weren't being well received, and the sales weren't what we wanted them to be. So Mr. Zucker decided that he wanted to control his own destiny, and that Z-Man was going to start selling under the Z-Man brand. So in 2007, we launched the Z-Man ElasTech soft plastic brand. Now, around that same time, something else really cool was happening, and that's this guy right here. You might recognize this, the original ChatterBait. Now, this was invented by a father and son duo, the Davises, in a garage in South Carolina, and in the year 2006, this thing burst onto the scene in a big way. Brian Thrift won a tournament down at Lake Okeechobee and had a record-setting bag, a great catch, and overnight, the Davises went from being able to hardly even sell these things to not being able to keep up with demand. These things were going for $100 on eBay, and 20 years ago, that was a lot of money. What did the Davises do? They got in touch with the company that was making these silicone skirts for them, Z-Man, and asked for our help. Z-Man started manufacturing and distributing ChatterBait lures, and 3 years later, in 2008, acquired the ChatterBait portfolio. So in 2008, you have Z-Man launching a plastics brand, Z-Man launching the ChatterBait under its own name, and that's when things started to grow. Now, ElasTech was a bit of an uphill climb because for years, anglers were just used to using plastisol or PVC baits. And it's kind of like, I like to think of it like when braided line came out and people have monofilament fishing line. You know, when you first used braided line, you had to tie different knots, it had different properties, it was a lot tougher, but it acted a lot differently. ElasTech was the same way, and there was a learning curve. Now, initially, ElasTech was really well received with saltwater anglers and in far off places like Australia and New Zealand, where the durability was really, really important. The baits just held up better, to really tough and toothy fish, and anglers just kind of latched onto that. Now, everybody knows that the biggest market for soft plastic fishing lures is the bass market, and bass anglers were a little bit slower on the uptake. The one thing that really changed the trajectory of Z-Man's acceptance by bass anglers is the Ned rig. Now, by now, everybody's heard of the Ned rig, but it started in Kansas with a guy named Ned Cady who got his hands on some of our soft plastic baits and started cutting them up and using them with small mushroom jig heads to catch 100 bass in 4 hours. Just incredible numbers of fish. I've even got here a note that Ned sent me. With the note, he included a 4-inch finesse worm that caught 238 largemouth bass, 6 crappie, 1 bluegill, and 1 warmouth in 14 and a half hours of fishing. Now, Ned and his buddy Drew Reese helped us develop the Finesse TRD and the Finesse Shrooms jig head, which we launched in 2015. It took a few years to get that rolling, but soon enough, other companies were following suit, introducing Ned rig baits, and that created a whole category of Ned rig soft baits and jig heads. Now, around that same time, we started working with more and more tournament anglers, and Z-Man really gained traction as a top finesse bait. The Elastec was a top material for finesse fishing, not just for Ned rig fishing, but for drop shotting and for fishing a minnow on a jig head. And things finally came full circle in 2021 when Jeff Gussie Gustafson won the Bassmaster Classic on the Tennessee River on this very jerk shad right here. The last 10 years since we launched the Ned rig has been an exciting and fun time for Z-Man. We've expanded our product line rapidly, and one thing that we've constantly focused on is innovation. Not doing things the same as other companies, pushing the limits when it comes to material, when it comes to introducing new bait concepts, when it comes to new lure designs, new ways to color baits, things like that. And that's really, really shown in the last few years. We've had a lot of success, and one of the things we're really proud of, in the last 4 ICAST shows, we've won 2 awards at each show. And for the last 2 years, we have swept the fresh and saltwater soft plastic lure categories. Now, another thing that's super rewarding is watching anglers all around the world catch world record fish on our baits. We've seen world record barramundi caught in Australia and record smallmouth bass caught in the upper Midwest. Just this year, we saw 2 more world records, an all tackle world record for a cobia caught on our scented jerk shads, and a world record snakehead caught on the original ChatterBait. That's when it all comes full circle, what we do. Now, one thing that Mr. Zucker was very committed to early on was conservation and doing the right thing across the board, whether it was for people or for the environment. The mantra that he lived by was Tikkun Olam. It's a Hebrew phrase that means repair the world. And we try to live by that here at Z-Man. Whether it's in the baits that we make, the Elastec soft plastics that are 100% non-toxic and contribute less soft plastic waste to the environment, or whether it's how we run our operation here. We're powered by solar power, and we get most of our energy usage for the baits that we make in our plant by harnessing the power of the sun. We put a lot of effort into reprocessing our waste material and making sure it doesn't go into landfills, things like that. And we also like to give back to the fisheries that support our business and sponsor causes like Captains for Clean Water and Release Over 20. Each year we endow a graduate research assistantship at the University of Florida. Now, having said all that, with the great baits that we make and the ways that we like to give back, the most exciting and rewarding thing for me personally in my 17 years here at Z-Man is our team and the people. Now, when we started with about a half a dozen people in 1995. Now we have 100 full-time employees that work in our recently expanded 75,000 square foot facility here in Ladson. And we also have another 50 people that package our soft plastic baits from home. That's a lot of people, and it's almost like one giant team and family here at Z-Man. The most rewarding and gratifying thing about this whole business is watching people grow and seeing their commitment to helping our business grow. We have some really cool stories here. We have a plant manager and a logistics manager who both started out picking orders in our warehouse. Our VP of Finance went back to school after raising 3 kids, got a degree in accounting, and started working part-time at Z-Man, and now she's our VP of Finance. A guy that started in customer service is our brand manager now. I could go on and on about those stories, and those are the ones that make us the most proud. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the story behind Z-Man, about who we are, about what we do, and about what motivates us as we celebrate our 30th anniversary. So thanks to all of you for your support, and we're super excited to see what the next 30 years hold.